This is a calm Italian bedtime story. Let your eyes close and simply listen. The street is already there before the night has fully chosen itself. It does not appear when the sun goes down. It does not begin when shutters close, or when dinner plates are stacked, or when television light starts to pulse behind curtains. It was there before all that. It was there in the heat of the afternoon, when voices moved faster and laundry dried above the alley in strips of white and faded blue. It was there during the evening, when children crossed it in bursts of noise and men stood outside the bar with coffee cups too small for the length of their conversations. But now it has changed, not into silence, into selection. The larger sounds have gone first. Cars have withdrawn toward wider roads. Doors no longer slam unless someone is too tired to remember themselves. Voices no longer need to be heard from one end of the street to the other. What remains is what belongs. The hum of an old television from behind a balcony door. The soft circle of a spoon inside a glass. A scooter passing through without hurry. The scrape of a chair being pulled inward. Then the pause before it is lifted. The final inch so it does not mark the floor. Naples does not fall quiet all at once. It narrows, and in streets like this one, narrowing is enough. Gennaro is already outside. He is not coming home. He is not leaving. He is not waiting for anyone. He is simply there, where he often is at this hour, one shoulder resting against the wall, just beside his doorway, as if the building itself had made room for him years ago and never taken the space back. The wall behind him is warm still. Stone keeps the day longer than people do. Above him, balconies lean outward, like they are trying not to miss anything, though there is almost nothing to see. Shirts left hanging from the afternoon have gone still. A towel, clipped too low, moves only at one corner, where the air from the alley rises differently after dark. A line of old clothespins remains attached to the wire, some wooden, some plastic, all of them kept long after their matching colors stopped mattering. The light above the doorway opposite is on, not bright, just awake. Its yellow tone does not reach the center of the street. It rests halfway across and gives up there, leaving the middle in a kind of accepted dimness, enough to move through, not enough to reveal anything that does not wish to be noticed. Gennaro does not look directly at anything. That is not how he sees. His eyes remain on the street in front of him, not focused, not unfocused, somewhere in between. The way people learn to look when they have lived their entire lives among walls that remember too much. To look directly is to ask. To ask is to involve yourself. Better to let the street arrive by itself. A chair scrapes somewhere overhead, not dragged, adjusted. Then the sound of a plate being stacked on another. Then water running briefly in a sink. Then stopping before it becomes noise. A window closes at the far end. Not hard, just enough to say that whoever was leaning there no longer needs the air. Gennaro stays where he is. He does not smoke anymore. He stopped years ago, not because he wanted to, but because one day the gesture had begun to feel heavier than the desire for it. Still, he knows the weight of a cigarette in a hand when he sees one, and across the street, near the corner where the alley bends, a man stands in that old posture, one foot against the wall, one shoulder dropped slightly, cigarette between the first two fingers, not held for display, not hidden either. The ember brightens once, then fades. The man is not guarding anything, not officially. He is simply there, like the broken drain pipe, like the basil pot on the sill above him, like the narrow table outside the closed shop 2 doors down, on which things are sometimes placed and later no longer there. Nothing in this street is unusual enough to become an event. That is part of what keeps it calm. The bar at the lower end has already closed. Officially, the metal shutter is down, but not entirely. A line of light escapes from underneath it and stretches across the stones like something drawn with care. The front door behind the shutter is closed. The side door is shut as well. But there are voices inside, low and level, not drifting, not rising, just remaining. A glass touches another. A stool leg rubs once against tile. Someone laughs, but only from the chest, not from the room. Then quiet again. No one walks toward the bar. No one walks away from it. The street has learned how to keep these things in proportion. A scooter enters from the upper end. Its sound arrives before its light does, and even its light is weak. The front lamp angled too low, illuminating not the alley ahead, but the worn stones immediately beneath it. The rider does not move fast. There would be no point. The alley would refuse speed, even if someone wanted it. As the scooter passes, a shutter above opens by an inch. Not enough to watch, enough to confirm. The ember of the cigarette near the corner brightens again, then dims. A balcony curtain shifts. The rider does not look left or right. Then the scooter is gone. Its sound continues through the next turn, softens once, then dissolves into the larger city beyond. Nothing follows it. This is often how the street prefers things. A movement, a registration, then return. Gennaro lifts one hand and smooths the front of his shirt with the flat of his palm. The gesture has no purpose beyond completion. He was raised among men who never began moving without first settling the cloth over the chest, as if the body had to agree with itself before it could enter the street. Across from him, A woman steps briefly onto a balcony carrying a basin. She does not look down. She tips the water slowly into the gutter channel that runs along the wall. It falls in a narrow stream, strikes stone, then disappears along a route carved by repetition. She waits half a second, enough to ensure no one is directly below, then empties the last of it and withdraws inside without a word. This is politeness here, not warning, timing. The basin is gone. The balcony remains. From above, a voice says a name, softly, not called, placed into the air, the way one sets down a cup for someone who knows where it is. No answer comes, or perhaps it does, too low to keep its shape. Gennaro pushes himself away from the wall. He does not decide to walk. He simply begins to. That is often how the night moves him. Not with intention, with continuation. His shoes make almost no sound. The stones are irregular, some worn down in the middle, some cracked, some holding a thin dampness where the alley never fully dries. He knows each change underfoot without lowering his eyes. At the first bend, he passes the small shop that sells cigarettes, batteries, cheap biscuits, bottled water, and anything else people might need without wanting to admit they forgot. Its shutter is down. A plastic crate remains outside, empty now, though it still smells faintly of tomatoes. Beside it, another crate is turned upside down and used as a table. On it lies a folded cloth, a receipt book, and nothing else. Tomorrow morning, there will be coins there, or peaches, or packets of chewing gum, or maybe only dust. Tonight, it holds pause. At the next doorway, a small shrine is set into the wall behind cloudy glass. The Madonna inside has faded from blue to something quieter. Plastic flowers stand in a jar beneath her, one stem bent, where the heat softened it years ago and no one thought it worth replacing. The little bulb above the shrine no longer works. It hasn't for months. Still, no one removes it. Broken things are often allowed to remain if they continue occupying their old place honestly. Gennaro slows there, not to pray, not even to think. Just because the street widens by one body's width at this point, and where streets widen, time often does too. A man comes from the other direction, carrying a brown paper bag, folded neatly at the top. He does not appear burdened by it. The bag hangs from his hand like any ordinary purchase. Bread, perhaps, lemons, or something else that belongs to the hour more than to the contents. When he reaches Gennaro, he does not stop. He lowers his pace by just enough to make acknowledgement possible. Ancora fuori. Still out. It is not a question. Gennaro gives the answer that belongs to such statements. Ancora. Still. The man shifts the bag from one hand to the other. Dentro fa caldo. It's warm inside. This is true in every sense available to it. Gennaro nods once. The man moves on. The bag remains in his hand until he reaches the dark stretch beyond the shrine and turns. By the time Gennaro glances that way again, the man is no longer visible. Nothing in the exchange asks to be remembered. That is one of the reasons it will remain. He continues downward. This part of the alley slopes almost imperceptibly, enough that water always knows where to go, and people, after years here, no longer feel themselves leaning. The walls on either side are closer now. Pipes run openly along one side. On the other, patches of plaster have peeled away to expose the older stone beneath. A child's chalk mark remains on the lower wall, faint and half-washed, a circle and two short lines that once meant a face, and now mean only that a child once paused there long enough to draw one. From inside a first-floor apartment comes the smell of tomato cooking down slowly with onion. Not tonight's dinner. Too late for that. This is sauce for tomorrow, or for someone coming home later, or for the habit of keeping something warm, because the night feels less complete without it. A radio plays behind the same wall, very low. Not music exactly, more voice than melody. A man speaking softly over strings. Gennaro does not distinguish the words. He doesn't need to. The sound itself is enough to place the room behind the wall. A table, a light left on over the stove, one chair occupied, one empty. The alley opens into a slightly broader crossing where the bar stands. The bar is closed the way certain bars in Naples are closed, by appearance rather than by fact. The front shutter is down. The chalkboard menu has been taken in. The outdoor tables are stacked against the side wall, their metal feet together like folded birds. Yet the line of light under the shutter remains. The side entrance, though shut, breathes in faint currents of coffee, stale beer, lemon peel, old wood, and frying oil that has already lived a full day. 3 men are there. One sits on a stool. One stands with his hands in his pockets. One is visible only from the shoulder down, half inside the side doorway. No one is talking when Gennaro arrives. Then the man on the stool clears his throat and says to no one and everyone, "Domani gira." Tomorrow it turns. The weather, the street, luck, the city itself, it does not matter. The standing man answers with a short sound through his nose. "Ma." Gennaro continues at the same pace. As he passes, a hand from inside places something on the small round metal table outside the side door, wrapped in newspaper, folded tight. Nothing dramatic in its shape. It could be pastries, could be ledgers, could be nothing at all but the habit of carrying something from one side of the threshold to the other. A second hand reaches from the shadow of the doorway, takes it, and withdraws. No one on the stool turns to watch. No one standing by the wall changes posture. Gennaro does not look. This is how things are left undisturbed, not by pretending they do not exist, by letting them remain unspoken enough to stay small. From inside the bar comes a short burst of laughter, quickly reduced as if someone remembered where the walls were. The man on the stool says, "Piano." Easy. To the room, not to the laugh. Gennaro passes on. The butcher's shop farther down is dark now, but the tiled entrance still reflects the street in fragments. The hooks inside hang empty, silver in the weak light. Water from the evening washing still lingers in the drain channel. The smell there is iron, soap, cold tile, and stone. Beside it, the pharmacy sign creaks once without wind. A church bell rings somewhere farther up, not to mark time exactly, to remind the night that time has not stopped just because the street has narrowed. The bell does not dominate. It crosses above the roofs and settles lightly over the alley, touching the balconies, the shuttered windows, the metal roll-downs, the lines of laundry, then thinning into the wider city. Gennaro turns toward the opening, where the alley gives its brief view of the bay. The sea cannot be reached from here, only seen. A slice between buildings, black water carrying broken reflections from farther out. A ferry sits in the distance, like a lit building detached from land. Closer in, a fishing boat moves so slowly it appears to be thinking rather than traveling. He rests one hand on the low wall. The stone is still warm from the day. Naples keeps its heat long after midnight, especially in the walls, as if the buildings distrust the dark and refuse to surrender the day all at once. A cigarette glows behind him. Then footsteps. The man from the corner, the one who had stood smoking without seeming to watch anything, comes to the wall too. Not close enough for companionship, not far enough for formality. He lights a second cigarette from the first. The flame appears, touches his face briefly, then disappears again. È passata. She passed. This is not a question. Gennaro does not turn. L'ho sentita. I heard her. The man exhales smoke toward the street, not the bay. Below them, the city beyond the alley continues in larger forms. Traffic, horns, a bus somewhere, a burst of music that does not belong here and fades before it arrives. The man says, "Stasera fanno tardi." Tonight, they'll be late. He means those in the bar. He means whoever has not yet gone home. He means the shape of the street, which has not fully folded inward yet. Gennaro gives the smallest movement of his chin. The man finishes half the cigarette, drops it, presses it out with the side of his shoe, and leaves. No greeting, no need. Gennaro remains. He looks at the black water until it stops being water and becomes only depth. Then he turns back into the alley. On the way up, he passes the tailoring shop that opens irregularly and only when its owner decides the world has given him enough reason to face it. The sign above the door still reads beautifully in faded gold. The glass panel reflects the alley badly, stretching lights, bending shapes, making the street look older than it is, and more truthful than a clean reflection would allow. Above the shop, a balcony door opens. A woman appears with a basin in both hands. She tips water into the gutter channel, waits one exact beat, then pours the rest. She has seen Gennaro below. He knows this because of the pause between the first and second pour. That is enough. She does not apologize. He does not acknowledge. Politeness complete. Farther up, the alley belongs briefly to younger voices. 3 boys, or men not long enough, removed from boyhood to have surrendered its posture, occupy the corner by the old wall. One sits on a scooter without starting it. Another holds a football against one hip. The third leans back with both palms on the stone, looking upward for no reason except that youth often needs somewhere to put its eyes. When Gennaro passes, one of them says quietly, "Buonasera, Jenna." The others shift just enough to leave a clearer path. Gennaro raises 2 fingers without slowing. Behind him, the boys continue speaking. Their voices are low, not out of fear, but because this part of the night teaches everyone eventually that some hours belong to reduced volume. Now, the street begins to feel like his own section again. The cough from the second floor belongs to one man and to no other. The television laughter from the widow's apartment arrives on schedule, already softened by the wall. The smell of basil and hot oil from the corner kitchen means the daughter came home late and the mother waited to fry until she heard the key. Above his own door, one shutter is half open. Across from it, the little groceries outside table has been wiped clean. A damp cloth sits folded once at the edge. Beside it, a bottle stands with the last finger of red wine at the bottom. No one has taken it in. No one will tonight. A scooter passes the mouth of the street again. This time, one window does shift open a little wider. A face does not appear, only the movement of curtain and frame. Then the window remains there, not closing, not continuing to open. Observation has happened. No record of it is needed. Gennaro takes out his key. He stands at the door for a moment before using it, not in hesitation, in completion. Behind him, the bar sends one last thread of laughter upward, thinner now, almost affectionate. Somewhere, a child protests sleep and is answered by a voice that has done so every night for years. A spoon circles inside a glass. A chair is lifted, another set down. The building next door releases a smell of detergent from a cloth being wrung out in a sink. The city is still alive enough to matter and tired enough to mean it. He unlocks the door once. Only once. Inside, the stairwell receives him the way all old Neapolitan stairwells do, by blending everyone's life together until no single apartment can fully claim its own smell. Detergent from the first landing. Coffee made too late on the second. Soap. Damp cement. Linen kept in drawers. Old wood. A trace of cigarette smoke from someone who leans out the upper window and believes the smoke stays outside just because he does. He climbs slowly. The stair rail is polished, where hands always land, and rough where no one needs it. His hand finds the polished part without searching. On one landing, a folded shopping trolley rests against the wall. On another, a child's shoes have been left outside a door, neatly side by side, toes facing inward. A television flashes blue under a not fully closed door. No voices, only changing light. On the next landing, a kitchen still awake gives off the smell of strong coffee and lemon peel. Someone has boiled milk too late, and it has left that soft sweetness in the air that clings longer than the cup itself lasts. He reaches his floor. His own apartment opens without protest. Inside, nothing has changed. A chair near the window. A table with yesterday's newspaper folded twice. A glass at the sink. A small lamp near the stove. The window open. He does not turn on the main light. The small one is enough. Its yellow circle reaches the table, the lower half of the cupboard, the side of the sink, and leaves the rest to know itself, in shadow. This is how rooms at night should be lit, his mother used to say. Enough to move through them without forcing them to become day again. He places the keys in the ceramic dish by the door. The sound is small, precise, a marker of return. From the cupboard, he takes a glass. From the tap, he pours water. He drinks half of it standing. The second half he leaves unfinished for a moment on the counter, as if his hand has not yet decided whether the night is still outside or already inside him. He goes to the window. From here, the street below can only be seen in fragments between the opposite wall and the open shutter of the neighbor's apartment, but it can still be heard in full. That is how streets like this work. They do not need to remain visible to continue being understood. A balcony light goes out, then another. The bar, if it is still occupied, is quieter now than before. The voices no longer separate clearly. They have become one low current, like water under stone. The boys at the corner are gone or have moved beyond hearing. The man with the cigarette is no longer in sight, or perhaps he is, and only the ember has disappeared. Gennaro places one hand on the sill. The stone is warm. The last scooter of the night passes somewhere beyond the bend. Someone below laughs once and is immediately told to lower it, not sharply, but with the intimacy of someone who knows laughter can carry farther than intention. A window closes, then opens again by a finger's width. This is the part of the night no one ever describes properly, because on paper it would look like almost nothing. A street, a few sounds, a light under a shutter, a table outside a closed shop, a hand placing something down, another taking it away, a bar that is closed and not closed, a man smoking where he always smokes, a scooter passing where everyone already knows it will pass. But the street does not measure itself by events. It measures itself by continuities. And tonight, every continuity has held. Gennaro rinses the glass, not fully enough. He places it upside down on a folded cloth beside the sink. Still, he does not undress. First, he stands once more at the window. By morning, all of this will look smaller. Daylight does that. It reduces what the night allows to remain layered. The same doorways will become only doors. The same corner will become only a corner. The same table outside the shop will hold fruit or batteries or bread or nothing at all and seem innocent in the uninteresting way of daylight. But the street will remember itself correctly, not as danger, not as drama, not as something hidden, only as itself, a place where some things are seen without being examined, a place where silence is not emptiness but agreement, a place where basil on a sill, sauce on a stove, money left aside, men in a bar after the shutter has come down, and a scooter moving through a sleeping alley all belong to the same fabric and ask for no explanation. That is what people misunderstand. They think silence means fear. Sometimes it does, but sometimes silence is older than fear. Sometimes it is habit. Sometimes it is fatigue. Sometimes it is the long inheritance of knowing that naming a thing gives it edges, and edges make it larger than it needs to be. The street prefers softer shapes. So does the night. Gennaro turns off the small lamp. The room joins the building in that shared half-darkness that comes only when enough voices have lowered, enough chairs have been taken in, enough doors have decided to stay shut until morning. He undresses by memory more than by sight. Shirt, shoes, belt, chair. The bed is cool where no body has touched it yet. He lies down on his back first, listening. The city is still there, but farther. The street below is still there, but folded. The building carries the last of its wakefulness through pipes, boards, walls, the faint step overhead, the muffled cough 2 floors down, the water running briefly in someone else's sink. Then even those begin to space themselves out. Naples does not sleep evenly. It loosens. And in the loosening, Gennaro lets the night continue without him. He does not think about the bag, or the bar, or the hand that took what another hand left, or the man at the wall with the cigarette. Thinking would suggest old as the street, older than the men in it, older than the bar's current owner, older than the grocery shutter, older than the polished stair rail, older than the saint behind glass whose candle no longer lights. Below his window, the alley remains exactly where it has always been. Narrow, warm-walled, half-lit, aware, and somewhere in that awareness, where nothing is hidden and nothing is named, the street keeps its silence the way it always has. Not dramatically, not fearfully, not even deliberately. Simply because, after enough years, some places no longer need speech to understand themselves at all. And the night, having asked nothing more, holds everything exactly there, until morning comes to make it all look ordinary again. More Italian bedtime stories coming very soon. If you enjoyed this moment of calm, subscribe and like the video for more gentle storytelling.